What a lonely person. Turkey feathers. I forgot what the headdress is made of. And it dances, it's cool. Look, overlooking Land's End. Dancing on the world, a lonely people. Native peoples have lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for at least 10,000 years. San Francisco is the land of the Yalamu, a small tribe that was part of a larger linguistic group known today as the Ohlone. The evocative words, "I am dancing on the edge of the world," come to us from the Ohlone song of Long Ago. Ohlone people have been dancing on the edge of this continent for thousands of years and continue to do so today. Land of the Yalamu. 3 Yalamu bands lived in the villages of Chuchui, Sitnalok, Amutak, Substanti, and Petnalok, but traveled throughout their home territory for plant harvesting and hunting. Approximately 50 independent nations of Ohlone-speaking peoples occupied the California coastal area from San Francisco Bay to just south of Monterey Bay. Within this vast stretch of Ohlone territory, which extended eastwards to the Diablo mountain range, several different but relative languages were spoken. Today, the Ohlone language, once spoken on the San Francisco Peninsula, is called the Ramaytush. We are here. Fremont, San Mateo, San Jose, Half Moon Bay, Gilroy, these are all in Yucat's territory. San Joaquin is east of the San Joaquin River. The Bay of Miwok, the coast Miwok, which is North Bay. I was down here, the Matson, Salinas. There's Monterey, Remsen, Esalen territory, Salinan territory, and then I'll go down to the Chumash all the way to Southern California. The brown is Ohlone territory with tribal names circa 1770. White is more modern places like Monterey, Gilroy, San Jose, Fremont, Oakland, San Mateo, and we're right here at Land's End. Living on the edge of the world. Ohlone people were experts at living with nature. They knew how to hunt, fish, and harvest nutritious bulbs, seeds, fruits, and greens for a healthy diet and for medicines. They cultivated the landscape through burning, pruning, and other means in order to enhance their native foods and animal habitat. They cooked in baskets, underground ovens, and ever-open fires. The men were experienced hunters, using bows, arrows, traps, clubs, slings, and nets to capture birds and animals to feed the people of their village. They could start fire, make rope, and twine from certain plants. Houses and boats were constructed from tule plants grown nearby. They created all the tools they needed from stone, bone, wood, and shell. With intelligence and ingenuity, they had all they needed from the world around them. Women made beautiful and useful baskets of all sizes from the roots and shoots of native plants that they carefully harvested and prepared. These baskets were used as plates, bowls, drinking cups, storage containers, cooking pots, baby cradles, water jugs, sifting tray, carrying packs, and special gifts. Men made nets and basket traps for fish, birds, and other small animals. Ohlone cared deeply about their family and had a strong community ties. Their success and well-being depended on working together. Boys and girls learned all the skills they would need in life from the adults in their village. But life was not all about work. Their world was rich in ceremony. They had plenty of time for song, dance, laughter, and play. Little kid watching somebody work, sort. There's the reeds, there's the water, there's the birds, campfires. Everybody running the paths, the water. And that's here. Coming to the Cove. Yalamu people traveled on foot from local villages to visit the cove here at Land's End. They came primarily to hunt marine animals, mammals, and birds, to fish, and to gather mussels and other shellfish. After processing, the foods and animal hides were later carried home. While camped here on the cliffs overlooking the vast Pacific Ocean, the people also kept busy gathering wood, firewood, useful plants, cooking meals, mending nets, and hunting deer. Springs provided fresh water for drinking, cooking, and bathing. Imagine several tule reed boats bobbing in the sparkling water below. Each carried 2 or more men who maneuvered their cleverly constructed boats through the restless waves as surely as most people walk on solid ground. They set out their nets for schools of fish or cast them on unsuspecting birds. In the small marsh that had nearly vanished from this cove, sea lions, seals, sea otters, and birds' eggs were also object of their attention and made many satisfying meals. While the Yalamu had to take life in order to feed and clothe themselves, they had a deep respect and reverence for the plants and animals that shared their world. They had a connection and relationship with the land, the plants and animals that few modern people will ever experience. It is a testimony to their sustainable way of life that they were here for so many centuries without negatively altering the balance of nature in which we all rely. During the 16th and 17th century, classic cultures. During the 16th and 17th centuries, foreign travelers made occasional brief visits to California's central coast. But in 1769, Spaniards began exploring the area with a distinctly different purpose: to establish permanent military and missionary compounds and a few small towns. For the most part, these foreigners were met with cautious curiosity and hospitality by the Ohlone people, receiving generous gifts of nutritious foods they desperately needed for their travels. Initial to the novel of these new people and the trades they carried generated much excitement among the San Francisco Bay Area tribal peoples. The native people exchanged words, foods, gifts, laughter, rituals, and song as equals, not knowing that in a few short years their ancient way of life would be forever changed by these newcomers. By 1776, the Spanish military, presidio, and mission church were established at San Francisco. There was some Yalamu resistance, but over the following months, many local Yalamu children and youth were baptized as the mission's first Christian converts. Several years would pass before the majority of Yalamu adults joined the restrictive and regimented life of the missions. Yalamu dancing at the mission. While the mission was established with good intent, European diseases devastated the Indian population at the mission. Native converts lost their freedom and were subject to whippings and other physical punishment. At the time of Christian baptism, it is doubtful that native people knew the Spanish clergy expected it to become a lifetime commitment. Those who ran away were returned summoned by force. Pedro Avencio was born on the San Francisco Peninsula around 1826 to Puchon Ohlone, father, and Babe Miwok, mother. Talk about California fires. The introduction of cattle by the Spanish, as well as clearing of land for agriculture, housing, and irrigation, destroyed traditional food sources. Spanish laws also prohibited the long traditional control burns that assured an abundance of wild food plants. Despite the obvious drawbacks of mission life, it became more and more difficult for tribal people to live as they had before. With few remaining choices, many others joined the mission. In a few decades, Spanish rule waned and the missions along the coast lost their influence, but the damage to traditional native life was irreversible. With the closing of the missions, tribal people labored on local ranches. When Americans later flooded into the region, spurred by the gold rush, Indian people often suffered violent and inhumane treatment, sometimes even deliberate extermination. First governor of California, for sure. Put bounties, $1 million bounties, paid out in $1 million. In less than 100 years, this ancient and thriving native culture was transformed into a tragic story of human suffering and a cultural upheaval. The Alamu and other local tribes did their best to adapt and survive these traumatic events, and many continue to live and work in their homelands for years to come. We are still here today, Ohlone people today. Many Ohlone people still live in the San Francisco Bay Area and elsewhere today. We live and work the same as other modern Americans, but sometimes also practice the traditions of our Ohlone ancestors. Some in our community work with agencies to preserve ancient cultural sites and ancestral burial grounds. Others specialize in Ohlone history, languages, basketry, and other traditional skills to keep them alive for the future. We are proud to our Ohlone ancestors and know that we are part of a long continuing history on this land. Clockwise from top left: Jackie Kyo, Mutsun Ohlone, Linda Yama, Ramsun Ohlone, Ramona Gabriel Ohlone, Ruth Orta Ohlone, Itzi and Richie Miranda, Ramsun Ohlone. Beautiful, isn't it? Again, back to this beautiful Ohlone picture.